What if being too organized isn't a flaw but a form of protection? What if all that perfectionism was never about impressing anyone, but about surviving in a world that feels out of control? And what if the person who gets upset when you're late wasn't trying to control you, but was just trying to hold on to something solid in a life that often feels chaotic? Let's talk about Virgo and the real reason they lose it when you mess with their peace. For a Virgo, it's a slow-burning irritation that builds every time the clock ticks past the agreed-upon time. It's not because they're impatient, it's because time is sacred to them. It's their currency of respect. If you say 2 p.m., they'll be there at 1:57, not because they're trying to impress you, but because that's how their brain is wired to honor time, structure, and planning. Repeated lateness doesn't just say I'm running behind, it says your time isn't that important to me. That cuts deep. Then there's clutter. Physical clutter, digital clutter, emotional clutter. Virgo wants it gone. If you leave your socks on the floor, your tabs open in chaos, or your feelings all over the place without ever trying to sort them out, you're activating every nerve ending in their body. Virgos get a bad rap for being clean freaks. But the truth is, their outer environment reflects their inner peace. If the house is a mess, their brain is screaming. And no, it's not about being controlling, it's about finding clarity. One Virgo once said, "If I can't control what I feel, I'll control what I see." That's not perfectionism, it's survival. Here's another trigger, the absence of a plan. Virgo can wing it if they have to, but they don't like it. They feel safest when there's a roadmap, a backup plan, an exit strategy. When someone says, "Let's just see what happens," Virgo hears, "Let's walk into chaos." They're not trying to ruin spontaneity, they're trying to avoid the meltdown that comes when things go wrong and no one thought ahead. If you want to earn a Virgo's trust, show them you've thought it through. Have a plan, even if it's not perfect. Effort means everything. And speaking of chaos, nothing spikes their blood pressure like a sudden change without warning. Say you've had dinner plans all week, and then 2 hours before, someone cancels. To you, it's just a last-minute change. To a Virgo, it's mental whiplash. They've already mentally prepared, shifted things around, structured their day. When you cancel suddenly, it's not just inconvenient, it's destabilizing. It makes them question your reliability, your thoughtfulness, and yes, even your place in their life. Last but not least, messing with their stuff. Virgos know where everything is. That pen on the edge of the desk, it's there for a reason. That folder on the desktop, it's placed with intention. When someone moves their things to help or to clean, but actually creates disorder in their system, Virgo isn't just annoyed, they feel violated. It's not about being territorial. It's about having a safe zone, a system that works. Disrupting that system isn't helpful, it's disrespectful. So, what's the common thread in all this? Virgo doesn't seek control to dominate others. They seek control to create peace inside themselves. Their structure is their sanctuary. If you shake that structure, you're shaking their stability. And while they may not yell, explode, or cause a scene, trust me, they're screaming on the inside. And when they finally do speak up, it won't be a tantrum. It'll be a firm line drawn with quiet precision, and once it's drawn, it's rarely ever erased. So if you're in a relationship, friendship, or work environment with a Virgo, remember respecting their space, their time, and their systems isn't about giving in to their quirks. It's about honoring what keeps them balanced. And when a Virgo feels balanced, they're generous, loyal, incredibly thoughtful, and honestly, one of the best people to have by your side. Let me give you one final image. Picture a Virgo walking into their kitchen after a long day. They've been holding it together, giving their best, making sure everything and everyone is okay. But then, they see dirty dishes in the sink they didn't leave there. groceries tossed carelessly on the counter, a phone charger unplugged and missing. It may seem small, but to them, it's an emotional weight added on top of an already full plate. And that, right there, is how chaos enters their soul quietly. Because for Virgo, control isn't about perfection, it's about protection of their time, their energy, their peace. And when you respect that, you don't just avoid fights, you earn their deep, lasting trust. Let's talk about trust, the real kind. For Virgo, trust isn't handed out like candy. It's built brick by brick through consistency, integrity, and presence. And once you earn it, it's one of the most sacred things you can ever receive from them. But here's the flip side. Break it even once, and that carefully constructed bridge starts to crack in silence. You may not see the fallout immediately, but believe me, it's happening behind those calm, collected eyes. Start with this lying. Big lies, little lies, white lies. Virgo doesn't distinguish much between them, because to them, dishonesty isn't just a betrayal of facts, it's a betrayal of character. When you lie, even about something small, it tells them you don't respect their intelligence. Worse, it tells them you don't trust them enough to handle the truth. That's how the unraveling begins. Then, we move into the realm of broken promises. Virgos don't expect grand gestures or fairy tale endings. What they do expect is follow through. If you said you'd call, show up, help, contribute, they expect you to mean it. And when you don't, they don't explode. They just log it, quietly. It goes in that mental notebook they carry, not to use against you, but to reassess what role you should play in their life moving forward. Now let's talk about accountability, or the lack of it. Nothing frustrates a Virgo more than someone who shifts blame. If something went wrong and your first instinct is to point fingers or play victim, you've lost a big chunk of their respect. They're not expecting perfection, they just want maturity. A simple, yeah, I messed up, goes a long way with a Virgo, because it tells them you're emotionally responsible, and that, to them, is sexy. And while we're here, let's not forget the slow, painful erosion of trust that happens when people are just inconsistent. Say one thing, do another, be all in one day and ghost the next. Virgos need stability, emotional reliability. They don't do well with hot and cold behavior. It's not about being needy, it's about feeling safe. Because for Virgo, love isn't just about butterflies. It's about building something they can rely on brick by emotional brick. One of the lesser talked about betrayals in Virgo's world is neglect. Forgetting important dates, skipping over moments that mattered, dismissing things they remembered for you, but you couldn't return the favor. This isn't about grandiosity, it's about mindfulness. If a Virgo remembers your mom's surgery, your favorite snack, or the exact way you like your coffee, and you can't even show up when they need a ride to the airport, that imbalance stings more than you'll ever know. Now, understand this, Virgo doesn't confront easily. They're more likely to retreat, recalibrate, and revise your emotional standing than to scream or accuse. That's why it can feel like they suddenly pull away. But it's never sudden. It's the result of 1,000 little inconsistencies that chipped away at the foundation. And by the time you notice they've already packed emotionally and moved to safer ground, still think you can sweet talk your way back in. Maybe, but not with charm, with effort, with proof, with changed behavior. Because Virgo isn't looking for words, they're looking for patterns. You want their trust back. Rebuild it the same way you got it in the first place, consistently, patiently, and humbly. And here's the thing, when you do show up, when you do keep your word, when you do take responsibility, Virgo opens up like a field of sunflowers to the morning light. Their loyalty is fierce. Their love is service-oriented. They'll show up for you in ways you didn't even know you needed, anticipating, supporting, fine-tuning everything around you so you feel seen and held. But that version of them, it's reserved only for those who've proven they're safe. So ask yourself, are you building trust with your Virgo or silently undoing it? Because to a Virgo, trust is the foundation of everything else. And once it cracks, everything built on top starts to tremble. Respect their time, their boundaries, and their emotional intelligence. Show up when you say you will. Take responsibility when you mess up. And don't assume they'll always be there waiting for you to figure it out. They won't raise their voice. They'll just lower their tolerance. And when that happens, you won't get a warning. You'll just notice they're no longer available. Not for texts, not for dinners, not for your excuses. Because when a Virgo stops trusting you, they don't make a scene, they make a decision. Let's talk about subtle disrespect, the kind that doesn't look like yelling or cursing, but still hits Virgo straight in the heart. If there's one thing that can quietly destroy your relationship with a Virgo, it's making them feel like their voice, their effort, or their care doesn't matter, not through harsh words, but through careless ones. Start with this classic calling them too critical or too much. You know the tone, the one that says, relax, it's not that serious. When they point out a small mistake, to you, it might sound like harmless teasing, but to a Virgo, it cuts deep, because that small mistake they mentioned, they noticed it because they care. Their attention to detail isn't about control, it's about contribution. They're trying to make things better, and when you brush it off or mock them for it, you're not just dismissing their point, you're dismissing their value. Another one that really gets under Virgo's skin, acting like their concerns are overreactions. Virgos are thinkers. They process everything deeply, even if they don't show it. When they finally open up, it's because they've already gone through 5 mental drafts of that thought. So when someone says, "You're overthinking it," it doesn't just feel invalidating, it feels like a slap in the face after they've worked so hard to communicate clearly and calmly. Then there's the group setting. Virgo speaks up in a meeting, offers a suggestion, and gets ignored only for someone else to say the same thing 5 minutes later and get praised. It happens more often than you think. And every time it does, Virgo shrinks back a little more. Not because they lack confidence, but because they've learned that speaking up doesn't always lead to being heard. Want to know what else makes a Virgo shut down? Being accused of being fake or passive-aggressive when they give feedback. Virgos don't like sugarcoating, but they also don't like hurting people, so they'll put in extra effort to say something helpful in the most respectful, careful way. Before we go further, let me ask you this. Have you ever felt like you were being misunderstood, just like the Virgo we're talking about? If yes, comment the phrase "I'm seen" below. I'm reading every single message, and this space is yours to be heard. Truly possible. And if the response they get is, "Why are you being so condescending?" they stop trying, not because they're wrong, but because they feel punished for doing the right thing the wrong way. Here's a big one belittling their work. Whether it's their job, a project they care about, or even how they organize the kitchen, Virgo puts pride into everything they do. When you say things like, "That's not a real job," or "Why are you making such a big deal out of it?" you're not just questioning the task, you're questioning their identity. Because for Virgo, their work is often an extension of their worth. You don't have to love what they do, but you better respect how seriously they take it. These may seem like small things, but they add up. A Virgo might not argue with you when they feel dismissed. They won't storm out. They won't scream. What they will do is withdraw. Emotionally, quietly. They'll stop offering ideas. They'll stop making plans. They'll stop correcting small things. And you might think, finally, they're not being so uptight. But what you're actually seeing is the moment they've stopped trusting you with their inner world. Because when a Virgo cares, They engage, they fix, they refine. That energy is love, it's effort. And when you teach them, repeatedly, that their effort isn't appreciated, they stop offering it. And once they stop, it's almost impossible to get back. So here's the truth. If a Virgo is still giving you suggestions, reminders, edits, or ideas, it means they haven't given up. It means they still believe you're worth investing in. The day they go silent, that's the day you should worry. Respect doesn't always come in grand gestures. Sometimes it looks like listening when a Virgo points something out, saying thank you when they fix something small. Recognizing that their standards aren't meant to shame you, they're how they show they care. If you've got a Virgo in your life who still dares to care, who still speaks up even when it's uncomfortable, cherish that. And if you've silenced a Virgo with dismissiveness, it's not too late to change. But don't wait until they're already gone to realize that their nagging was actually their version of love. Because when a Virgo feels disrespected, they don't fight back. They fade out. And the quietest exits leave the loudest echoes. Let's go deeper now into the quiet places where Virgo's heart gets bruised. Not from yelling, not from chaos, but from emotional neglect. See, Virgos may seem put together on the outside, but they're tender inside. They don't wear their pain on their sleeve, but they carry it neatly folded, carefully hidden, and always heavier than you think. Start with being forgotten. For some people, missing a birthday or a small celebration is no big deal. But for Virgo, it speaks volumes. It's not about the candles or the cake, it's about being remembered, valued, seen. If they remembered your dentist appointment 3 weeks ago, but you forgot their birthday, the disconnect doesn't just hurt, it leaves a permanent mark. It tells them that their care isn't being returned, and that kind of imbalance is poison to their spirit. Then there's the pain of not being heard. When a Virgo finally decides to open up, which takes a lot, they're not looking for instant solutions. They just want presence, space to speak, space to feel. But too often, their vulnerability is met with distraction, interruption, or worse, dismissal. If they say, "I've been feeling a bit off lately," and you answer with, "You're just tired," or "It's probably nothing, you've shut the door on something sacred." And once a Virgo feels that door close, it rarely another emotional landmine comparison. Comparing a Virgo to your ex, your friend, even their own sibling. Virgos are constantly working to be better, to give more, to grow deeper. So when someone says, "Why can't you be more like," it invalidates everything they've done in their quiet effort to love you well. Comparison is not only the thief of joy, it's the thief of Virgo's trust. Here's a subtle but devastating one mocking their sensitivity. Virgos might seem logical, but they feel deeply. They overthink because they care. They analyze because they're trying to understand. So when someone says, "You're too sensitive," it doesn't just feel like criticism, it feels like rejection of who they truly are. It tells them their depth is a burden, and once they believe that, they stop sharing it. One of the most painful experiences for a Virgo is being in a relationship, romantic or otherwise, where their silence is misunderstood. When a Virgo pulls back, it's rarely because they don't care. It's often because they care too much. Their distance is protection, not punishment. They're trying not to make things worse. They're processing. They're finding the right words. So when someone says, "You don't even try," it cuts deep, because what you don't see is how much they've been trying internally, quietly. Virgos don't need perfection in return. They don't expect you to never make mistakes. What they crave is effort, not grand gestures, just little things, a follow-up text, a hand on their back, remembering the small detail they shared weeks ago. Those tiny moments are proof to them that they matter. And when they don't get that, when they consistently feel invisible, unappreciated, or misunderstood, they begin to shrink. You'll see it in their posture, hear it in their quieter tone. Notice it in the way they no longer correct your typos or remind you of your appointments. They haven't stopped loving you, they've just stopped believing that love is safe to give. That's how Virgo lets go, not with a storm, but with a slow, graceful withdrawal. So if you're wondering where things went wrong with a Virgo, rewind. Did you forget something important to them? Dismiss their feelings? Make a joke that hit too close to home? Because Virgo won't always tell you what hurt them. They'll just start loving you less loudly. But here's the good news, you can still show up. You can still repair, not with promises, but with presence. Not with flowers, but with follow-through. Say, I hear you. Say, that must have hurt. Say, what do you need from me right now? And then do it. That's how you reopen the door they quietly closed. Because deep down, Virgo doesn't want to walk away. They just want to be seen. And when they are, their love is one of the most healing, grounding, quietly powerful forces you'll ever experience. Don't wait until they've packed up their care, folded their feelings, and walked away in silence. See them now, hear them now, and love them while they're still within reach. So now we've reached the final chapter, the quiet storm inside Virgo. You've seen the quirks, the standards, the silent fades, and the unspoken hurts. But if you take just one thing from this entire video, let it be this: Virgos don't get mad because they're controlling. They get mad because they've cared too much, too long, without being seen. It's never about the dishes. It's not the calendar, the checklist, the tone of your voice. It's the accumulation of being dismissed, of giving their all attention, effort, patience, and being met with forgetfulness, avoidance, or laziness. That's what breaks a Virgo spirit. That's what pushes them to draw lines you never saw coming. Most people don't even notice when a Virgo is at their breaking point. Why? Because Virgos are experts at holding it in, at smiling while hurting, at fixing things for everyone else while their own needs go unmet. But there comes a moment, usually after the 19th second chance they never told you they gave, where they go quiet in a way that's final. It's not silence from anger. It's silence from exhaustion, from clarity, from acceptance that their kindness has been mistaken for compliance one too many times. See, when Virgo finally loses it, it's rarely loud. It's a decision, a shift. One day they're correcting your grammar or adjusting your tie before a meeting. The next, they're politely distant, still nice, still composed, but different. Their eyes no longer light up when you walk in. They don't remind you to take your vitamins or ask about that meeting you were nervous about. They're done, but with dignity. And you'll feel it, not through confrontation, but through absence. Emotional absence. Energetic absence. The kind of absence that makes a room feel colder, even when they're still sitting right there. That's the Virgo goodbye. It's not explosive. It's evaporative. It slips through your fingers while you're still pretending nothing's wrong. But let's be honest, it didn't start that way. It started with love, with effort, with a Virgo choosing you and deciding quietly to invest, to care deeply, to adjust their routines, soften their edges, and try to make space for two people's needs instead of just one. But when that effort goes unseen, when their emotional labor is undervalued, that's when resentment takes root. And here's the hardest truth of all: by the time a Virgo tells you they're hurt, they've been hurt for a long time. They're not bringing you new information, they're delivering the final report. So if you wait for them to blow up or cry or beg, you'll miss it. Because Virgo doesn't perform pain. They process it quietly, deeply, and then they pivot So what can you do if you've reached that edge, if you're seeing the signs, the silence, the lack of eye contact, the absence of reminders and check-ins? You show up, not with guilt, not with apologies you've said before, with change, with action, with proof that you see them now and that you're ready to love them not just for what they do, but for who they are. Tell them without drama, I didn't realize how much you were carrying. I see it now. I see you. And then prove it. Don't ask for forgiveness, earn their trust again. Slowly, patiently, consistently. Because the Virgo you hurt is still in there, behind the protective shell they built when love stopped feeling safe. And if you're a Virgo listening right now, let me say this, you're not too much. You're not too sensitive. You're not too organized, too particular, too anything. You are a force of depth, discernment, and devotion. And the right people won't just tolerate those things, they'll honor them. They'll be inspired by the way you show up with excellence and expect the same in return. You deserve relationships where you don't have to shrink, where your silence isn't the only language people finally listen to. You deserve to be heard before you have to scream internally, to be seen before you walk away, to be chosen back without begging. So if you've been giving and giving, and wondering when someone will notice that you're starting to disappear, maybe this is your sign to pause, to rest, to receive. Because even warriors need a place to lay down their armor. And even the strongest Virgo deserves a love that doesn't have to be earned through exhaustion. Now, if this resonated with you, tell me in the comments which moment hit home the most. Which of these quiet truths have you lived? And more importantly, what do you need right now to feel safe again? Because sometimes the most powerful thing we can say isn't, I'm sorry, it's, I finally see you. Out of all 20 signs we've talked about, how many of them have shown up in your own life? Be honest. Drop the number in the comments. I want to see how many of us are quietly carrying the same weight. And one last thing, have you ever watched a Virgo disappear in silence? And you never really understood why? Let's talk about it below.